Good evening and welcome back to Terrier Nation. I'm your host, Benson Lin.
And I'm Joey Lin. On this episode of Terrier Nation, Monet Ota, Belle Fraser, and Serafin breaks down the men's ice hockey season. Women's tennis player Shelly Yaloz talks about her season with Brook Alessi. And Mason Jablonski and James Ninneman brings us the newest on softball.
Brook Alessi and Kyle Finn catch us up on men's lacrosse, Jessica Lam covers women's ice hockey, Eric Pepe updates us on tennis, and Tyler Davis lets us know all about rowing.
All this and more tonight on Terrier Nation.
It's been a busy last few weeks for men's hockey. Since the start of April, they've competed in the Frozen Four, seen multiple players move on to new schools, and are set to welcome in an exciting new freshman class. They'll be paired with a fresh new leadership group. I'm Serafin, joined by Monet Ota and Belle Fraser. Belle, let's start with the games in Tampa. BU was matched up against the Minnesota Golden Gophers in the national semifinals, ultimately falling 6-2. What were the big takeaways from the Terriers' final game of the season?
Biggest takeaways, I think we knew this going in. Minnesota was ranked #1 in the country, so they were a scary opponent to go against, and they brought their skill in the first period. They really put BU on their heels. In the first 5 minutes, it could have been 3-0. They hit 2 posts. Drew Comessa was standing on his head, but they asserted their dominance early on, and I think it took BU a period and a half to kind of find their footing. And we can talk about this later, but the 6-2 score doesn't fully feel reflective of how the game really went because BU did find their game eventually, but it was a tough first period to kind of find your confidence in a game that big on a stage that important.
I absolutely agree. I think that 6-2 score looks a lot worse than it really was. I think without those 2 empty netters, it was 4-2. That I think is a lot better of a representation of how that game went. But speaking of that first period, I think they kind of set that tone early of kind of a lack of discipline. I think there's room for a lot of improvement there. You had guys like Ty Gallagher, Lane Hudson, Cade Weber. They were all taking penalties, and those are really core guys on that defensive end, right? And for a guy like Gallagher, that's pretty out of character. He took 2 himself. Granted, they weren't necessarily those like stupid avoidable ones, right? It was like a hooking call, it was a tripping call, it was kind of something that maybe the refs were taking a little too seriously in a championship game. But at the same time, when it's an uncharacteristic play, it's really tough to be taking those kinds of penalties in a Frozen Four game, right? Cade Weber, he took, I thought, silly penalty at the end of the second period, right after they had already killed a 5-on-3 to go into another 5-on-3 to start the third. That, I think, was a big blow really to the kneecaps, right? And I think kind of Luke Tuck, he had I think that first period, he was started off really well. He was kind of carrying that physical play for his team. But when you have one guy really pushing that limit with that edge, the refs are going to kind of hone in on him, and they're going to notice. And I think he got maybe a little too carried away. He took a cross-checking penalty in that first, and that really set the tone for, I guess, the rest of the game with those 6 other penalties.
While Minnesota took down our Terriers, they eventually fell to the Quinnipiac Bobcats in the national championship, giving the Connecticut program their first ever title. But now that the season is over, BU is going to have to deal with the departure of a massive senior class. Monet, what did the class of 2023 bring to this team?
Yeah, this team is losing a massive senior class, right? And it's a senior class full of a lot of character guys. You've got the very obvious captain, Dom Finsori, but you've also got guys like Wilmer Skoog and, your John Copelands and things like that. They brought so much energy and so much life to that team, to that locker room, to that bench, right? They work day in and day out for this team. And every player does. It's D1 hockey, but I think with this team especially, they knew that this was kind of a big year for them. They knew that they were going back to the Nationals, right? It was a really big season for them, and they had the work to show for it. They made it to the Frozen Four. And you know what? There's the entire leadership group. We'll touch on Case McCarthy a little bit later, but again, Finsori, Jay O'Brien, they're out of here, right? And that's a really big blow to this roster. It's a really big hole next year. And that's the reality of college hockey, is you're going to be losing these really important players and these big role models. And that's exactly what the entire class was this season. We had a big crop of freshmen coming in, completely inexperienced. They've never played collegiate hockey. They've never been in college before. And I think this group really led by example, and they pulled this team to the national championship semifinal. So.
No, I mean, I completely agree. It's been a storyline all season, but those 10 seniors came back on a mission, and they came to win championships. They came to get BU recognized on the national stage again, and they did just that. And while doing that, although they didn't, reach the final goal, they completely changed and reset the standards and expectations for what it means to play BU hockey. And compared to a year ago when they didn't even make the tournament, Jay Pandolfo has a lot to do with it. But the culture change, I think, is one of the biggest things you take away from this season, and that has everything to do with the veteran leadership. So I think, like you said, that freshman class really earned their stripes this postseason, and they've got great role models to kind of come into their sophomore season and this is how we play, this is what we're supposed to do, and they know what it takes to win now.
Thanks, Belle and Monet. Let's turn it over to Jessica with women's hockey.
Thanks, Bobby. Just last week, Tara Watchorn was appointed as the next head coach of the BU women's ice hockey team. Watchorn is a former Terrier and Canadian Olympic gold medalist. She's the first alumna of the BU women's program to serve as an assistant coach under former coach Brian DeRocher. During her time as assistant coach, the Terriers finished 4th in the country, won the 2019 Beanpot, and made 4 Hockey East tournament appearances, including the 2019 semifinals. During her time at BU, Watchorn was a letter winner for 4 years. In 2010 and 2012, she helped lead the team to their first 2 Hockey East championships in the program's history, and in the 2010 championship, she scored the game-winning goal in overtime. More recently, Watchorn was a coach for the Stonehill Skyhawks. After a year of coaching, she was named Coach of the Year by the New England Women's Hockey Alliance and was a finalist for the American Hockey Coaches Association's D1 National Coach of the Year. We are so excited to welcome Watchorn back to the team next year, and we wish her the best of luck. We'll throw it over to Brooke with tennis player Shelly Yaloz.
Hi Terriers, I'm Brook Alessi here with Shelly Yaloz, the #1 singles player on our women's tennis team. Shelly, for the first time since 2011, the team is ranked in the top 75, sitting at number 70 as of April 2nd. Does this add to your pressure or nerves while competing?
I don't think that it adds to the pressure and nerves while competing because just as a tennis player and athlete in general, I think that the team and all the individuals are really good at dealing with pressure, whether that's on the tennis court or in the classroom or in any aspect of life. So we really welcome pressure and nerves, and we use that to excite us for the future, and hopefully we can continue to climb in the rankings.
How has training been just this week leading up to the Patriot League tournament? How are you guys preparing?
Yeah, so training has definitely been really energetic. I think our biggest strength as a team right now is just supporting each other and cheering while we are on the court, but also cheering for each other in the gym and also cheering for each other in the classroom. So I think that one of the things we're really doing to prepare is supporting each other and also just doing our best in all aspects, making sure that our mental game is the best that it can be right now. So we work with a mental coach and also a fitness coach. And then we have our coaches in tennis who are just amazing.
With graduation right around the corner, what are your plans? Is it going to involve tennis?
Yeah, so I plan to work back home in New York City, and I'll be in a corporate marketing role. And my plans definitely include staying in shape. So I just recently signed up for a gym membership, and also I will be looking into continuing tennis for the rest of my life, just because it's something that I grew up playing, and it is such an amazing way to make friends and stay in shape. So I definitely want to continue to be involved in the tennis world, and who knows, maybe even try the professional route.
Well, that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much, Shelly, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Brooke. BU's men's tennis team finished up 2 matches this past weekend, and they were able to secure a 4-2 victory over Lehigh on April 8th. It started off rough for the Terriers as they were unable to win the doubles point with Dion Loudis losing in the first singles match, but they were able to pull themselves together with freshmen Corey Craig and Alejandra Licea and juniors Ben Letzer and Jonah Dixon each winning their singles matches. Way to go, guys. This victory over Lehigh marked a third straight win for BU as they headed into their next match against Army the following day. Going into this match, Army stood at an undefeated 5-0 in their Patriot League meets and 17-10 overall. There were some close matches with BU's Alejandra Licea bouncing back with two 6-3 sets after losing the first against Army's Vishnu Bodavula, and Army West Point winning two close doubles matches, both at a score of 6-4. Jonah Dixon suffered a tough loss after winning his first set with 6-2, but couldn't outlast his opponent, who came back to win the last two sets and secure Army's victory over BU. The final score was 4-2 in Army's favor. BU's record now stands at 3-2 in the Patriot League and 11-11 overall as they head into their final regular season match of the season against Holy Cross. Freshmen Licea and Craig are coming off of win streaks of 4 and 3 respectively in their singles matches and can hopefully add one more to it. So we wish the best of luck to our guys as they finish out the regular season and head into the post. Now let's turn over to Tyler with rowing.
The men's rowing team recently finished up the Pac-12 Challenge against Wisconsin on April 9th. On the first day of the weekend challenge, both of the Terriers varsity eights unfortunately fell to the Cardinals and Golden Bears by mere seconds. On the second day, the first varsity fell to Wisconsin, but the second varsity beat Wisconsin by 6.4 seconds. The men will be competing for the Bill Cup against Dartmouth on April 29th at Lake Maury. As for the women's rowing team, they had a sweep against Dartmouth in the last race on April 8th. In 3 of the 4 events, the women finished more than 10 seconds ahead of Dartmouth. Additionally, the lightweight women's sure are doing awesome too, as they won their 6th straight bean pot. In both of the varsity 8+ and 4s races, both BU boats finished at least 10 seconds ahead of the competition. I think it's safe to say whatever the women's teams are doing, it's crucial for their wins, so they should keep it up. Now let's throw it over to Brooke and Kyle on men's lacrosse.
Thanks, Tyler. The men's lacrosse team lost both games against Navy and Yale and their national ranking. The season now heads into the final stretch.
The offensive production has been steady, keeping the games tight till the end. Vince D'Alto scored a double hat trick against Yale, with Timmy Lay providing his hat trick against Navy. But defense and goaltending have been weak points. The deficit simply gets too large, leaving the offense not enough time to mount a comeback. In the fourth quarter against Yale, the deficit was 8 goals, and BU closed out the quarter with 5 unanswered goals. It is hard to win games when trying to play catch-up.
The offense will need to find a way to step up even more, with Matt Garber having a down year compared to his past season. On a positive note, the Terriers are currently in second in the conference. The Terriers must handle business against Loyola Maryland and Lehigh at home. It should make for an exciting season finale against the conference leader, Army Black Knights. Army is currently undefeated and they'll have home field advantage. This would be the Terriers' ultimate test before entering the postseason.
Last year, the Terriers beat Army in the final of the Patriot League tournament, so this game will be a valuable sneak peek for both teams. The tournament is set to begin on May 2nd and wrap up on May 7th. We wish the men's lacrosse team good luck in earning their second title. Now let's throw it over to Mason James on softball.
Thanks, Brooke and Kyle. The Boston University softball team has been a powerhouse on the field this season. They've gone 33-7 overall, 6-0 in conference play as they sprint to the Patriot League tournament just a few weeks away. BU hosted its first Patriot League series of the season on April 8th and 9th in a 3-game battle against Lafayette before playing a doubleheader versus Harvard on the 11th. The Terriers were the top dogs, grabbing the win in every single contest. I'm Mason Jablonski. That's James Zinneman. James, what are you liking about this stellar softball squad?
Honestly, just about everything. First up, this team, they can flat out rake. They can hit the ball like nobody's business. And, a big part of that reason that they can hit the ball so well is infielder Kayla Ronson. Ronson is hitting a big-time 474 on the year so far, which is good for a hit in almost every 2 at-bats. So that's good, man. This is even more impressive given the fact that she leads the team in at-bats with 135, so that's more chances to get out, more chances to strike out. And she's not doing that. She's hitting the ball. And she's no fluke, Mason. Kayla Ronson is legit. Last year, she took home Patriot League Player of the Year honors, and she actually had the 2nd most hits in the whole dang country, if I'm being perfectly straightforward with you here. So she's good. Stats aren't everything, of course, but I firmly believe that Ronson is legit, like I said.
And, you know, Ronson has been a heavy hitter for the Terriers all season long. And, of course, it's no surprise that her .474 batting average leads the entire Patriot League this year. Another player I've seen really step up for the Terriers recently is Caitlin Coker. She was electric throughout BU's series against Lafayette, hitting the walk-off 3-run inside the park homer to take the first game 8-0. Just a day later, Coker delivered another walk-off hit to complete the late 3-2 comeback win in Game 3 for BU. On the season, Coker is batting .341, and James, it's clear as crystal. Caitlin Coker is clutch.
Let's talk about another aspect of the game, because baseball, softball, they're not all about offense. Sure, hitting is sexy, but it's really pitching where I think a team wins and loses games. Fortunately for the Terriers, they are very much set in that department. They have 2 top dogs in Allison Boaz and Casey Ricard, and that's been enough to neutralize pretty much all of the offenses that they have had to face so far this year. And Boaz is currently riding, I believe it's 16-win campaign, and that is the product of a 1.52 ERA and a cool 108 strikeouts. And Ricard, I believe, has 132 strikeouts to go with a 1.75 ERA and 13 wins. I don't really know what else to say, Mason, but these 2, Boaz and Ricard, they're workhorses. They put in the work and they get the results, and they have been so good. The Terriers have only deployed 2 other pitchers this entire year, and one of them only pitched 1 inning. So, really, they're just riding Boaz and Ricard to the finish line.
These Terriers are absolutely dominant at the plate and in the circle. That's what has them rolling through this season. The season is a marathon, James. There's no doubt about that. But these Terriers put on a show every time they take the field. And that finish line isn't far now, with the Patriot League tournament set to begin on May 11th. We'll be cheering for the Terriers as they swing for the fences, chasing their 5th conference championship in 8 years. Talk about a dynasty, James.
Man, I love dynasties, Mason. Duck Dynasty. Now that's a good one.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, I've been thinking, Mason, and I think I would like to play a game of catch.
A game of catch? Well, sure thing, James. How about if I catch this ball right here, then the Terriers will win?
No.
No?
No. I think we've had enough magic for one semester, Mason. I think it's a beautiful day outside. You know, spring's in the air, the grass is green, the air is warm. You know.
Yeah, I guess.
Global warming's in full effect, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I think let's go out and enjoy it while we can. We're young. We got a ball right here. We got 2 gloves. Let's go play a game of catch.
A game of catch?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. I throw you the ball. You catch the ball. You throw it back to me. I catch the ball. And then it continues on infinitely.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. You know what? You drive a hard bargain, Mr. Ninneman. How about we go outside, play some catch? I'll say the magic can wait till next semester. After all, we'll be back alongside our amazing cast and crew. So how about for now we just go outside and play some catch?
Let's do it.
Sounds good. Well, for now, we'll throw it back to you, Benson and Joe Way. As we go, let's have some fun outside.
Okay, let's do it.
Thanks, Mason and James. And that's all we have time for tonight on Terrier Nation for the final episode of Season 22. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter for the latest Terrier sports update at Terrier Nation 10. I'm Joey Lin.
And I'm Benson Lin. From all of us here at Terrier Nation, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back in the fall.